And I give the floor to the representative of the Russian Federation.
Thank you, Mr. President. We thank the Undersecretary General, Madam Rosemary DiCarlo, for her comprehensive briefing about the situation in Libya in the context of the activities of the United Nations Support Mission in Libya. We listened closely to Bushra al-Khodiri. At the present day, the situation within and around Libya continues to destabilize. The country is unable to cope with the fallout from the Western aggression in 2011, which caused Libyan statehood to collapse and which resulted in which caused the ongoing political crisis. Last week saw the expiration date for the roadmap of the Libyan Political Dialogue Forum. This fundamental document was designed to determine the direction for the ongoing process of political settlement, including a qualitative transition to matters of unifying administrative and security structures of the former Jamahiriya to remedy the economy and the social sphere as well. Unfortunately, a number of the tasks set out thereunder, including completion of work on the future constitution of the country and the conduct of nationwide elections, were not fulfilled on time. Nonetheless, the spirit of the roadmap and the principles enshrined therein remain relevant for the future of Libya. Its expiration is not a reason to cast prudence to the winds. In this connection, we note the positive focus of the representative of the Prime Minister, Fathi Bashaga, elected by the House of Representatives and his office to pursue efforts for the welfare of the country and the efforts undertaken in this regard. What is most important is that the enthusiasm had a constructive focus. There's a great deal of work that lies ahead to put together unified governing bodies, unified state institutions, as well as financial and economic institutions, and the creation of unified security forces. However, the most important challenge facing the Libyan people is to lift the burden of reciprocal mistrust, the consequence of the protracted conflict. We strongly condemn the increasingly frequent outbreaks of armed violence between the armed groups in Tripoli and other parts of the country, as well as instances of road closures along the coast. We call for the parties to refrain from any reckless acts that further exacerbate the rift. We believe that all international players with influence to bear on the various Libyan stakeholders should prompt them to engage in constructive cooperation with the aim of seeking compromise solutions to the problems that have amassed through political and diplomatic means alone. The alternative to this, escalation of armed hostilities, which of course must be avoided. Mr. President, we welcome the progress on the political settlement track. During the third round of negotiations, which were concluded in Cairo between the delegations of the House of Representatives and the High State Council on the draft future constitution, significant results were achieved. However, unfortunately, the parties have not yet been able to reach a definitive agreement. We have left to hope that what is to be scheduled to be carried out in the next few days in Geneva, the meeting between Aguila Saleh and Khalid al-Mishri, that this will help to facilitate a resolution to the disagreements. We welcome the fact that, for the moment, the ceasefire is being upheld, and the joint 5+5 military commission is continuing its work. What remains relevant and topical is the question of evacuation of foreign forces from Libya. We consistently advocate the synchronized, balanced, gradual, and phased withdrawal of all non-Libyan armed groups and military units in line with what was arrived at last year in Geneva. I refer to the agreement of the 5+5 Joint Military Commission. This is the only approach which will help to avert a deterioration of the security situation. We believe that now, more than ever before, there's a need for international efforts to be consolidated on the Libyan track. This country should not be an arena for competition nor the advancement of one-sided parochial agendas. However, it behooves us to note that those who destroyed Libya in 2011 apparently have completely different plans. Maintenance of council unity on the Libyan dossier is nothing more than a smokescreen for them. Otherwise, it is difficult to explain the very non-constructive position of our Western colleagues, first and foremost the British penholders of the Libyan dossier, regarding what the Russian Federation drafted, a draft Security Council presidential statement which sets out the general position of the Security Council in support of stability and resilience for the political transition in Libya. We regret that even at this critical juncture, our British colleagues were overcome by banal jealousy over their penholdership, which prompted them to advance patently unacceptable revisions which prevented this document from being accepted or adopted. At the same time, the day before, a standalone statement from a number of Western statements, Western members of the Security Council was circulated, and this largely duplicated the content of our draft. After this, we were left with no doubt that what lie behind our Western colleagues' lofty words about the importance of a united council voice, there is nothing more than barefaced double standards which have caused so much suffering in Libya. Mr. President, due to the persistent inter-Libyan differences and the egotism of our Western colleagues, the situation in Libya is liable to spiral out of control. In this connection, we wish once again to underscore the fact that there is no alternative to a resolution of the Libyan situation under the aegis of the United Nations in a manner reflecting Libyan realities. UNSMIL, in this configuration, has an important role as a key mediator. However, this structure has for a long time now been decapitated, and it cannot, without a leader, fulfill the key functions entrusted in it to facilitate national dialogue. We note that the effective stewardship of Stephanie Williams at the helm of UNSMIL, the appointed special advisor of the Secretary General and not accountable to the Security Council, is artificially being dragged out, despite assurances about this having been a temporary measure. We see here evidence of the fact that our Western colleagues, in the spirit of neo-colonialist thinking, wish to impose on the Libyan people their script of how the future arrangement of the country should look and who needs to be leading this. We believe that this is a policy which is both cynical and not acceptable. There is a need for the UN envoy to have the relevant mandate from the United Nations Security Council. We will proceed from the above mentioned during negotiations on the draft resolution of the Security Council for the extension of the mission in July. The egotism of Western states, the self-appointed power brokers, is something that needs to be put to an end, and this is long overdue. At the same time, we note the Secretary General's focus on resolving this issue. We call upon him to approach the matter in a calibrated and balanced manner. There's a need not only to ensure consensus vis-à-vis the candidature of the special representative at the Security Council of the United Nations, but there's also a need to account for the views of internal Libyan stakeholders and regional players. And there's a need not to succumb to the diktats of the Western camp, who view Libya as their backyard. Thank you for your attention.
I thank the representative of the Russian Federation for their statement.